welcome to another episode of Jay Leno's Garage. Well, we finally finished it. You've been seeing this in the restoration blogs for, wow, the last at least 7 or 8 years. This is my 1934 Frazer Nash TT Replica chain drive. Just a fascinating automobile. It does not have a traditional transmission. It has chains like a 10-speed bike. What that means is you can shift very quickly without the clutch, just and go through the gearbox. When Motorsport reviewed this car, this is the fastest accelerating non-supercharged vehicle they had ever tested. I mean, they're not numbers that would impress you now, but back in the day, they were quite quick. And part of the reason for that quick acceleration was being able to go through the gearbox without, you know, double clutch, second gear. You can just slam through the gearbox. It has a locked rear end. What that means is you don't have a traditional differential because you don't have a differential. You have these chains. So when you go around a corner, the tires tend to slide, which is just horrible for tire wear, but very exciting if you like to drive fun vehicles. This was built by a man named Frazer Nash. He was, just one of those typical Englishmen, you know. He started his own company. He built cycle cars. I think the name of the company was GN with another fellow, and then he went off on his own. And just an interesting character. The engine is a fascinating motor. It is a 6-cylinder, twin cam, 2-valve per cylinder. Well, let me show you this. You know, if this had Alfa Romeo written on it, this would be $1 million car. Most of them just had a 4-cylinder engine. This has the Blackburn 6-cylinder engine. Originally when I got it, I thought it was 1.5 liters. It's it's 1.7. It's, what is it, 1,667 cc, something like that. As you see, 6 cylinders, 3 carburetors. We had to do everything to this car. The crankcase was porous. You put oil in and it would seep out and it was cracked. And this is before we knew about our company Lock and Stitch, you know, that does a lot of fixing of metal parts for us. So we decided to use our 3D printer. This is the early days of 3D printing. And we made a new crankcase, and we are so proud of that. Well, here, let me show you that piece of footage. Here's the head for the Frazer Nash. It is a Hemi head. It's a little heavy there. I see there's the block there. 2-valve per cylinder, twin cam. As I said, 1.5 liter. Come on in the engine room. Okay. This was the original crankcase for the Frazer Nash. It looks okay until you look inside. A crack runs here to here, here to here. Now, we started this before we knew about Lock and Stitch. So we just decided, you know, integral part of the motor. If this lets go, you lose everything. So let's just make a new crankcase. So what we did was we made a brand new crankcase from scratch. Come on, I'll show you. Well, this is a brand new crankcase. Which is pretty exciting. What happened was Jim Hall, our fabricator, he scanned the original, and then what did we do? We sent it to where?
It went to a foundry that did an investment cast. They made a clay or a porcelain mold of it,
right,
and cast.
And then cast it from that. So
it's aluminum casting, yeah.
And what Bernard is doing here is, well, putting the machining for seal?
Yeah, we're boring the front hole a little larger so we can put a seal in it, the proper seal.
But we'll have something that's brand new, won't leak, won't crack. The biggest fear with that one is you put it back together and road flex and...
Yeah, and it's got so many cracks in it, leaks in it, so...
You run out of oil and boom, you lose it. And
stuff is almost impossible to repair.
Yeah, I mean, but not impossible. That's
almost.
Right.
Keyword.
Almost impossible. This is a car that rarely leaves England. They just don't. The English love these things. They're so uniquely English that they really don't like them to leave. And I was in London one day, and I saw one break down on the street. So I ran over to the guy and said, "Can I push it?" Okay. So he and I were pushing it. His name was Ben. He worked in the auto trade. I can't remember if he worked for one of the auction houses. Anyway, I helped him push the car. And he talked about it and told me about it, and I would see him occasionally. And we got to be friends. And I was up in Washington State, and I found this one. Now, this car had been brought to America, I guess, in the early 50s. It was in a guy's collection, and it was pretty far gone. It was just worn out. We had to do everything. Jimmy, our metal man, well, you'll see Jimmy in the video. He made it, this was missing. He made a brand new one from scratch. Did a beautiful job. We'll show you the video on that. Here, take a look. Here's Jimmy talking about it. This cap was missing, and the guys did a beautiful job recreating it. I mean, you can't tell it from the original.
Yeah, all the dimensions, everything matched the original.
Yeah.
Bernard took all the machining and did all the original cap machining. The fine part here, that's the threaded pieces, and then the rest is all handmade. And between both of us and silvering it together, we get it finished up and had it chrome plated. And, you know, you'll never tell. It's exactly the same.
Exactly the same, except it's brand new. So nice.
Except for it's new and it's a little tighter probably than the original.
Yeah, that's good. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know, it's not really like an MG or a Triumph or any other car of that nature. You only have 3/4 turn lock to lock, so it's a very quick steering automobile, almost to the point that if you didn't know how to drive it, you might kill yourself. It's pretty dangerous. You just turn the wheel, and this thing goes that way because the rear end is locked. You know how a differential, the inside wheel turns faster than the outside. Well, that doesn't happen with this. You just have to be very careful. They did very well at hill climbs and stuff with them, especially on dirt, because you could slide and it could spin, and that way it's just a lot of fun to drive. We've done a few things to this that are non-stock. Normally, you could lift this up and see the chain drive. We put a cover in it, and we made a toolbox here just to carry some things. But I haven't had to use any tools so far. It's been pretty reliable. I think it's really a beautiful car. I mean, it's called a replica, not because it's kind of like a real one. It's a real one. They just use the term replica. 1934. I don't think any two of these were alike. There's a wonderful book out called The Chain Jive Frazer Nash by David Thurbley. I think that's his name. And you know, the thing I love about the English, they write everything down. I got this book, I looked in the back. Oh, and here's my car here, TT Replica Byfleet 2, chassis number, engine number, all the people that own it, you know, what they had for breakfast. I went to Nigel's house for split pea soup, you know, I mean, it's all in here. I mean, it's fascinating. England's the nation of scribes, and they just write everything down and keep just wonderful records. I say that because a friend of mine was working on the movie Mutiny on the Bounty. Remember that one with Mel Gibson, I guess? And they were trying to be authentic. So they went to the original tailor shop in London, where the real Captain Bligh had his uniforms made. And he said, we want to find out what uniform Captain Bligh. Like, oh, he gets the book, Bligh, here it is. Went in the back. Not only had the measurements, had an actual uniform. He showed it. Well, let's do it. Well, yeah, that's the one he wore. You can't get any more authentic than that. And that's what I just love about the English. You know, they're wonderful at having small clubs for unique cars, especially cars like this. This is, I don't know why I think it's a car that can only exist in England, but it just is. It's fun, it's light. This chain drive is what makes it so fun and sexy. It's just a terrific car to drive. We'll drive it in just a minute or two. What else can I tell you here? Knockoff wheels. Everything as it was back in the day. It's pretty original. We don't have any modern things in here. Oh, we have the fan. We have a modern fan because we live in California. But you know, this thing runs surprisingly cool. Rarely do I have to turn on the electric fan. Even in California heat and traffic, it runs pretty cool. Let's go around the other side. I've loosened it here already. The exhaust side's rather pretty as well. An awful lot of wood framing had to be done in this. Jimmy, our metal man, did a great job shaping the body. A lot of the original metal is here, but it took an awful lot of work. Jimmy also made this header tank right here, and it's got, of course, the sort of Brooklyn-style muffler underneath. It's got four-wheel brakes, but they're mechanical brakes, not hydraulic. We'll take it next door before we go for a drive. We'll put it up on the lift, and we'll show you how the chain drive works, because that's really the essence of this thing. I just like this firewall here. You see, you've got a firewall, and then you got this bit here. It's just canvas. You see, it opens up. You can get to some of the electrics there. But that whole thing comes apart. Not a good place to be if there's a SUV about to T-bone you, but Other than that, it's a very romantic car to drive, a lot of fun to drive. It just, you know, you feel like one of those English racing guys of the 30s in this thing. It's one of those cars you don't have to go fast to have fun in, but it does go fast. Gear lever outside here, all the way out for reverse. You have a handbrake as well. If you want to choose to just lock the rear wheels, you can do that. Here's your adjustment for your mechanical brakes right here. Just turn this to take up the slack and instant more brake. Very pretty dashboard, as you can see. You only have one door, which is on this side. And you have a little pocket here to keep your registration and things like that. Obviously, it's not a lot of theft protection. But seeing as how most people, they can't drive a stick, good luck trying to steal this thing. As you can see, period correct tires. Well, it's a car you really have to appreciate in motion, I guess. Let's take it next door. We'll put it up on the lift, and then we'll show you how that chain drive works, and then we'll go for a spin. Well, let's start at the front of the engine before we work to pièce de résistance. This is the new crankcase we made. You see, it's so nice when you have brand new stuff. So none of the bolts are rolled, you know, rounded off from years of people wrenching, trying to get the oil out by opening the nut here and using the wrong size wrench and screwing it up. This is an engine that sat, I think, for a long time because the previous owner didn't know where to get a crankcase. It had just been welded and patched, a JB weld and every kind of sealer, and it didn't work. And this is George Swift. George is a Volvo mechanic, but he does a wonderful job putting these engines together. And the nice thing is, with all the knowledge that he gets doing this, he can't take it anywhere because there aren't any of these around. so they only built, what, 26 of these Blackburns, I think, something like that, 26 of these Blackburn motors. But I think they're just one of the great engines. It's smooth, it's quiet, it's a 6-cylinder, 1,700 cc's. We originally thought it was 1.5 liter, but it was 1660, I think it is. We had new rods made, Carrillo rods for this thing, because as you said, George,
the original rods were aluminum.
Yeah.
And they would crack and wipe the engine out.
Right.
You don't want that.
You don't want that.
No, you don't.
No, you don't want that. Because then you have to make the whole thing in a 3D printer. But this just turned out great, didn't it? I mean,
yeah.
It's just amazing that you can save stuff like this, which wasn't possible even maybe 10 years ago. Here's the chain drive. As you can see, you have a drive shaft that goes to here, and this goes out to the sprockets.
Whenever the engine is running, the drive shaft's spinning.
Right,
like a lot of Corvettes.
And when you move the gear lever, the dogs jump from one chain to the other. And this is your first gear here, right, George?
Yep.
And of course, then you see you
second,
have,
third, fourth.
You got fourth.
And the dogs are what engage it.
Right.
So these dogs go into there, boom, it's in gear.
Right. Okay, this is our long-suffering mechanic, George Swift.
Yeah.
You may have seen this car in some previous restoration blogs. This is my 1934 Frazer Nash chain gang replica, they call it. The replica is a replica of the race car. It's not a replica car. This is a fascinating car, but the most fascinating part is the transmission, because there really isn't one. It's a chain-driven unit, like a 10-speed bike. You just jump from one chain to the next. And we thought we had it all together, and then we realized the chains somebody had used were too big, and they were rubbing each other and causing the whole thing to get screwed up. And we couldn't find any chains that fit, so we switched to motorcycle chains, so we had to cut new sprockets and do this whole thing. And there was a problem with the axles too, wasn't there?
Oh, this axle wasn't easy to get out, and to get the sprockets out, the axle had to come out. That was a workout. Bernard, like you said, resized all the sprockets. The gearbox is out right now, and if you look at it on the bench, you can see how the gears engage.
Right, but it's not a traditional gearbox.
It's like a dog box, but it's all exposed out in the open.
Yeah.
So.
And then and the chains jump from one sprocket to...
Right.
Yeah.
The reverse chain is constantly driven.
Right.
And when you were putting it in reverse, two chains were colliding, and that was that grinding.
Right, right.
And eventually it blew the chain off, right? I wasn't here that day.
Right, right. So...
yeah. So and because it went to a motorcycle chain, which has like 10 times the braking strength of the original chains, the chain was too long for the reverse chain. So Bernard made 2 new sprockets and changed their size. so the motorcycle chain would fit.
Right.
And that's a workout. I mean,
Yeah.
you see those pieces.
And it's not adjustable. You have to get, the chain has to be made for that.
Yeah, all these
Yeah.
4 chains in the 4 forward gears are adjustable. The
Right.
reverse chain is not.
Right.
So,
And that was the one that screwed us up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be good.
But it's coming back together, and we'll be road testing this thing pretty soon. We actually had it running around the street. We were driving it. It was just grinding all the time. And then one day it just popped out of gear, and I couldn't move it, and we realized the chain had broke because it was rubbing against the other chain. So
Yeah, it'll be done on Friday.
it'll be done on Friday. Yeah.
Not this Friday, but Friday.
It'll be done on a Friday. You know, we've been driving this car, so we didn't get a chance to shine it up and clean it up before we did this, started shooting this video today. But it still looks pretty good. So let's take it down. We'll fire it up and take it for a drive, show you what you can do. Let's go motoring! This is such a wonderfully responsive engine. You know, and being a 6, it's just so much smoother than the 4 cylinders of the day. You see, it starts right on the button. You saw that when I hit the starter. And as fast as you can move the gear lever, that's as quick as you can shift. Did you hear it there? That's the wood just... How's that for cornering? I love this big steering wheel. Like I said, when they got 3/4 turns lock to lock, makes it a little easier. Watch the wheels when it goes around the corner. They call it an elbows out machine. You've got to keep your elbows out when you go around corners. You know, there's a wonderful club for these cars called the Frazer Nash Club. Of course, they're located in England, and they're really helpful. This thing is hilarious to drive. Well, I hope I managed to convey how much fun this car is to drive. It's so twitchy with that lock. I know if you saw a couple of times, I turned the wheel sharply, and the rear end just slides right around. It's so much fun to drive, and a special thanks to the Frazer Nash Club of England. Without the men and women in that club, we wouldn't have any information on these cars. We wouldn't even know they exist. So it's a lot of fun. I hope I introduced you to a new kind of car you may never have heard of or seen before. There's not many here in the United States, but maybe there'll be a few more. Well, not if the English have anything to do with it, because they like to keep them over there. But you know how those things go. Anyway, listen, we'll see you guys next week with some more stuff. Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.